Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome you all in our third lecture, wound infection. So today we will discuss surgical site infections. Before proceeding to the lecture, I will tell you briefly about the history of surgical infections. The history dates back to around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. And Egyptians, they are famous in having the concept of infection, in reducing the infection. Like they used a process of mummification in preventing putrefaction. So they have a concept of some infection at that time. Later on comes Hippocrates. He's also known as father of medicine, and he used antimicrobial agents such as vinegar and wines, and he used these antimicrobial agents in irrigation of the open infected surgical wounds and to prevent the infection and helps in later closure of the wounds. After the Hippocrates comes Galen. At that time, before the Galen, the concept that infection should be reduced in the wounds, and if there's a reduced incidence of infection or no infection, healing of the wound is very quick. But at the time of the Galen, the concept was that localization of the infection or suppuration process in the wound, it helps in recovery of the patient. So they used different infected material like the pus or even the feces to create infection in the wound, to develop infection in the wound. And they have this bad concepts or misconcept at that time that this helps in wound healing. After the Galen, Robert Koch, he was very famous about his postulates regarding the organisms. They are the cause of infection or disease in the human beings. So he described that these organisms, they must be present in every disease patient. And he also said that it is possible to isolate the organisms from the host, and also they can be grown in a culture. He also said that it is possible to reproduce the disease when these organisms are injected, and he also recovered these organisms from different experiments. So his postulates, they are very famous at that time, that organisms, and he totally describes that organisms are responsible for causing the diseases. Later, Ignaz Semmelweis, he described very important, you can say, that method in preventing the infection. In his time, there were two wards of gynecology and obstetrician and obstetrics in his hospital. One was he was heading his ward, and another ward was headed by you can say that nursing staff. And he observed that in other ward the infection rate is very low than his ward. What he observed at that time, he said that the staff there, he is just using simple act of washing hands before and after touching the patient or before and after doing the procedure, and the infection rate is significantly reduced in their ward. So he used this method in his ward, and he made it compulsory for everyone to use hand, to wash the hands before and after the procedure, and he noticed that infection rate is reduced from 10% to 2% in his ward. So this act of hand washing is very important. Then comes Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur described his germ theory. He said that microorganisms are responsible for causing infection. Later on, Joseph Lister, he described antiseptic use. He said that different antiseptics, they can be used in wounds to reduce the burden of microorganisms. He used antiseptics in the compound fracture wounds, and he noticed that reduction of microorganisms is significant after the use of antimicrobial antiseptics. Then the famous Alexander Fleming, who made you can say that a great discovery in the form of penicillin in 1928. He discovered the penicillin, antibiotics. So he used this penicillin in his patient who was a police constable and having a face infection, staphylococcal infection. The patient did very good recovery, but it was partial due to the limited production of the penicillin, and later patient again developed the infection and he died. So this is the brief history regarding the surgical infections. Then surgical site infection, that is the wound infection. How can we are going to describe this wound infection? It's basically invasion of the organisms through the tissue following a breakdown of local and systemic host defense and leading to cellulitis, lymphangitis, abscess formation or bacteria. A means of this definition is that whenever the organisms they attack the patient, they attack a human being or they attack any living object, any living host, then what they are going to cause? First thing that they should break the defense system, and then it can cause cellulitis, it can cause lymphangitis, abscess formation can be there, or bacteremia is there. As the surgeon, we encounter or we face the infections in two ways. One, patient comes with the infection with us, like they are having some parotitis and they have a parotid abscess, or they have a cervical lymphadenopathy, lymphadenitis. Later on they develop different infections like the cold abscess in case of tuberculosis. Or if the patient is having a surgical problem, is having a surgical procedure, and after the surgical procedure it get complicated, like wound infection is there. So as a surgeon we encounter the patient in these two ways. So what are the types of surgical site infection? In this diagram you can see we have a skin, we have a subcutaneous tissue, then we have a deep tissue like fascia and the muscles, then we have an organ space, like in this picture we can see small ball, that is the gut, intestine. So if infection is just in skin and subcutaneous tissue, we call it superficial surgical site infection. And if it's in between the deep fascia and the organ cavity, that is only in the muscles and deep to the fascia, then we call it deep incisional surgical site infection. And organ space infection when it's in the organ space. So we divide this, or we can call the types of surgical site infection into superficial and into the deep. And deep like deep superficial surgical site infection and deep organ space infection. So sources of infection, how can we classify the sources of infection? We classify into the two types, like endogenous and exogenous. Endogenous, that is that they are present in the host or on the host, okay? Like surgical site infection, contamination of wound after a perforated appendix. We did surgery in a patient who was having perforated appendix, and we closed the wound because it was a perforated appendix. So the organism they just get settled in the wound, and wound later on became infected, and we have to open it. And another form is exogenous. Exogenous, that patient he has acquired the source of infection from the outside the environment, like the theater. He got the infection from the OT because of the inadequate air filtration, or the surgeon or the person there they use poor antiseptic techniques, or patient he get the infection in the ward like poor hand washing, and you can say that poor handling technique there. So there are two sources of infection in like endogenous and exogenous. Pathophysiology, how the wounds are getting infected, like the rich and the poor. Like if we see in every society or in every area, poor and rich both are there. So microorganisms, they are always with us, but for most of the time we coexist happily, because they are sometimes the microorganisms are necessary. So nosocomial infection, if we talk about them, 30% surgical patients they have nosocomial infections, and by definition these surgical site infection or these infections they can occur anytime from 0 to 30 days after the surgery. in case of simple procedure, or if we have used an implant or foreign material, then up to the 1 year, like we have used mesh, we have used vascular graft or prosthetic joint. So if this duration is 1 year. So while establishing the infection, there are various combinations, like in which ways infection can occur. Number one, that is very important, is inoculum of bacteria. That number of bacteria, how much the count is required to produce infection, and this depends on the virulence of a bacteria, like beta hemolytic streptococci or staphylococcus epidermidis. The second important thing that is required is bacteria friendly environment. And the third, diminished host resistant. Patient is immunocompromised, patient is diabetic, patient is on some anti-cancerous therapy, so he has reduced his resistance. So these three elements, they are very important in causing the infection. And if we talk about the host defense mechanism, we have three types of defense, like physical barriers in the form of skin, in the form of mucous membrane, in the form of cilia, or chemicals like gastric hydrochloric acid, these tears, urine and sweat, they are all the physical barriers. Then some humoral or biochemical agents are there, like acute phase proteins, complement systems, antibodies or interferon. And the third one is in the form of some cells like neutrophils, macrophages, natural killer cells, beta lymphocytes and T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So we have this host defense system, and if we break, when the microorganisms, they break the system, they cause the infection. Some bacterial secretions, when they attack, when they infect, they are released, that leads to the destruction of tissue and different signs and symptoms, like they secrete some enzymes like hemolysins, streptokinase, hyaluronidase. They secrete exotoxins from the gram-positive bacteria. These are basically proteins that are released from the intact bacterial cell wall, like tetanus, diphtheria. They secrete exotoxins, and endotoxins, they are basically liposaccharides in the cell wall of gram-negative bacteria. So these are different types of secretions. When the microorganisms, they infect the host, they released. So now what happened when patient has got infection? So natural history of the infection. Basically, infection is the body reaction to an invading or microorganisms that produce classical inflammatory response and leads to redness, erythema there, swelling, tumor formation is there, calor, heat formation and duller pain. The inflammatory response that occurs after the trauma or after the infection, both are the same. So this is the response of the host to the infection. So whenever acute inflammatory response occurred, then what happened? First thing, infection can resolve. It can lead to resolution. Number two, what can happen? That infection can spread. It can spread directly along the tissue planes like the lymphatics, or it can spread through the bloodstream and cause bacteremia. This is the second response can happen. Then the third, if it's a localized process, then there can be formation of abscess, and later on it can lead to the chronic infection. So the response of the body to the infection is that, number one, it can resolve the infection without having any use of, you can say that, therapy, or it can spread the infection. So this is the natural history of infection. So these surgical infection, how they are going to present? There are two types of presentations: major surgical site infection and minor surgical site infection. So major surgical site infection, that wound that either discharge significant quantity of pus spontaneously, or he needs a secondary procedure to drain it. And along with that, systemic signs are there, like tachycardia is there, pyrexia is there, patient is having fever, and TLC count is very high. So whenever there's discharging of a significant amount of pus, our patient needs a procedure to drain the pus with having tachycardia with having fever and increased TLC count, he has got now major surgical site infection, and it leads to the delayed in home return. Comparative to this one, the minor is that there is no significant quantity of pus drainage. It's only minor or small quantity of pus or serous discharge is there with no systemic signs, like patient is not having any fever, patient is not having tachycardia, there is no increase in WBC count, and this is not leading to the delay in home return. We can classify this into minor surgical site infection. Like in this picture, you can see on the left side it's a minor, and on the right side it's a major surgical site infection. We use different scoring systems to classify this wound infection. One is this Southampton wound grading system that has grade appearance, then major complications, and we classify accordingly. You can read it from the books. Then we have a sepsis wound score system. We have different criteria, and then we have different points, and then we classify according to this criteria into minor, major wound classifications. Then comes SIRS, sepsis, MODS, and MOSF. So systemic inflammatory response syndrome, that is SIRS. Whenever these three criteria, among these three criteria, if two are present, we classify this into systemic inflammatory response syndrome. Like patient is having hyperthermia or hypothermia. We took the temperature, we put, you can say that thermometer, and it gives the temperature 38 or above that, or hypothermia below the 30. One criteria is this one, that patient is having temperature. Sorry. The second, tachycardia. Pulse is more than 90 per minute, and patient is not having any beta blocker, is not taking any beta blocker. Or tachypnea, respiratory rate is more than 20 per minute, and WBC count is either more than 12,000 or less than 4,000. So if patient is having two among these three, he is in systemic inflammatory response syndrome. When this infect SIRS, we can say that SIRS with documented infection, then patient is in sepsis. And when the SIRS that now leading to produce the signs systemically, or when multiple organ dysfunction is there, like patient after getting infection, sepsis, now his urea and creatinine, that renal function test, they are deranged. Patient is developing jaundice, his liver function tests are deranged. Now patient is in multi-organ dysfunction syndrome. And later on, after all these, if patient is not properly treated, he will develop multiple system organ failure. This is the uncontrolled stage of MODS and lead to the mortality, death of the patient. So there are different factors that determine whether a wound will be infected or not. Like we have initially discussed, host response. If host response is strong, there is less chances of getting the infection. Then virulence and inoculum of the infected bacteria, the agent whose inoculum, how much is there. Then vascularity and the health of the tissue being invaded, like presence of dead or the foreign body there, and presence of antibiotics during the decisive period. This is very important. Decisive period, it is said that it's about a 4-hour period before after getting infection. Like patient, we did the surgery, right? We operated a patient with the perforated appendix, and we did not cover the patient with the antibiotics, or we did the surgery and we did not give the antibiotics, or patient has got some trauma, unnoticed, will lead to the infection formation. But if it is noticed, then it's a time of about 4 hours when the growth, or you can say that the total inoculum of the bacteria gets so much that it can lead to the infection. So this 4-hour period should be covered with the antibiotics that we call prophylactic antibiotics, that we say that patient should get the antibiotic when incision is made or when patient has got the anesthesia. So this is the decisive period, that's very important. There are various factors that increase the risk of infection, like malnutrition in the form of obesity, in the form of weight loss, Different metabolic diseases like diabetes, uremia, and jaundice patient has more chances of developing infection in these patients. Immunosuppressions like cancer patients, AIDS patients on steroids, patients on chemotherapy and radiotherapy, they have more chances of getting infection. Then colonization and translocation of bacteria and GIT during you can say that when we make the patient nilparoral. Then poor perfusion, like in case of shock or local ischemia, foreign bodies there, poor surgical techniques. These are the factors that leads to the increased risk of infection. We classify wound infection into clean, contaminated, and dirty. Clean, like when no viscus is open, infection rate is just 1 to 2%, and contamination before prophylaxis just 1. You can say that dose is empty and the rate is just 1 to 2%. In case of clean contaminated, when viscous open but with minimal spillage, like we can say that it's when we did bile drainage after doing cholecystectomy, it has a less than 1 to 10% chances of infection. Like gastric surgery, biliary surgery, if the gastric surgery, then it's up to 30%, and in biliary surgery it's up to 20%. And contaminated wounds, when viscous is opened with spillage or inflammatory disease, like variable in case of perforated appendix, it's contaminated wound, so 15 to 20%. Then dirty, like abscess formation is there, perforation is there, intestinal perforation is there, or abscess incision is made, so less than 40% is the infection rate, and contamination before prophylaxis is up to 60%. So how we are going to manage these different surgical site infections, surgical wounds? First comes preventive measures like short operations. Try to reduce the time of your surgery. Then skin cleansing with antibacterial chemicals, detergents, and also patients and surgeons and nurses skin, like we scrub before doing the surgery. Then proper filtration of air in operation theater, and there should be occlusive surgical masks and gowns should be used. Then prophylactic antibiotics, these should be bactericidal, and they have high tissue levels at the time of contamination, like 1 hour before the surgery. Then they should be given to the patients with implanted prosthetic material like heart valves, vascular grafts, joint prosthesis. So diagnosis of surgical wounds is usually clinical, and this should be supported by blood work, like we do complete blood count in which we see that white cell count is high. Then we do cultures of the infected materials or culture swabs before the use of antibiotics. Then we can also establish it with ultrasound guided or CT guided aspiration of the pus from the organ spaces and blood culture or urine cultures. So we give the patient antibiotics initially empirical for most likely organisms, and later according to the culture sensitive report. Then we can do incision and drainage in case of abscess formation and or radiological, like CT guided or ultrasound guided drainage. So take home messages: we should have a proper concept of infection, and to understand different types of wound classification. It is clean, contaminated or dirty wound. And we should also have a better understanding in the form of systemic inflammatory response syndrome. When we say sepsis, what is sepsis? Then multi-organ dysfunction and multi-organ system failure, and how we are going to manage. If you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you.